In this episode, we'll be discussing again the hypocrisy and the inconsistencies of the Christian apologists. Here we have James R. White, Dr. James White, as you know him, a Christian apologist who debates Muslims. He speaks about a topic of a transgender cyclist. And he pretty much condemns it according to his Christian beliefs. He quotes, this is what he posted on his Facebook. Let's read. He says, "The insanity that is at the end of women's sports absolutely disgusting, unfair and reprehensible. I truly feel for the real women cyclists, and man are the good ones fast, who cannot enjoy victory because of the foolishness of secularism." So as you see, James goes on a rant, how he, rightly so, of course, condemns secularism, for being disgusting and introducing transgender cyclists into female racing. And of course, this is against the Bible to be a transgender and so forth. So you can see where his condemnation comes from. But have a look how he even condemns secularism, and you'll understand now why you would see why a hypocrite these Christian apologists are when they're actually condemning secularism. Now, as you know, when a Christian debates a Muslim, and a Muslim quotes and says, look, you have the New Testament laws, you have the Old Testament laws, you need to apply that. And so a Muslim will try and refute a Christian and say, look at what your Old Testament teaches. But then the Christians come back and say, oh, well, we don't believe in the Old Testament laws. We now have the New Testament. When the Muslim brings the New Testament laws, where there are certain things in there that are uncomfortable for the Christian to respond to, the Christian will say, oh, well, we don't really need to apply those New Testament laws as well, because we have to Caesar be Caesar, they say. This is what they claim. They say Caesar, the Bible apparently instructs them to allow Caesar to judge their constitution and so forth, and that they don't need to use the Bible as their jurisdiction to run a country, right? So on one hand, you have Christians who appeal to secularism because anything outside the Bible is basically like secularism, and that we don't need to judge by the New Testament. We don't need to live under a Christian Sharia state run by the Bible. No. We have the Bible instructing us that Caesar gets to choose the moral truths of what is right and what is wrong. And the Bible is like just not solely completely out of the picture, but the authority is given to Caesar, since Caesar is given the authority to rule over the people, and of course not by the rules, regulations of the New Testament. No, Caesar can come up with his own human laws. So it's really absolutely abhorrent that these Christian apologists, on one hand, they appeal to Caesar as a get-out card because it makes them uncomfortable when the Muslim brings up questions of the New Testament and why they don't follow those laws and regulations. And then they would say, to the Muslim, oh no, Caesar has the judgment. Caesar is given authority to run, to arbitrate in our human civilization and to run Christian countries. But then on the other hand, you see when these Caesar secularists are running the countries, and they're introducing abortion laws, where they're introducing transgender rights and so forth, then the Christian gets up and starts arguing with, the secularists, when it's the very same Christians who have given the secularists, according to the Bible, authority to judge. So it's damn if you don't and you damn if you do. It's like a double-edged sword. This is the problem they have created for themselves, the monster that they've created for themselves. See, that's why the Bible is really nonsensical, and even the Christians understand it. And when they try and get away from the Muslim questions, they dig for themselves a deeper hole and a bigger mess where they themselves even point it out. And foolish, these people are really foolish indeed. And they actually go against their own secularism when it was the Christians themselves who have appealed to that system. And then when it goes against them, they start claiming, secularism is a damnation and it's taking us away from Christ and the Bible, when it's the very same Christians who actually referred to them as an authority. In fact, you can even ask a Christian this question. You say to them, well, how come you don't want your Christian country to run on the Bible? For example, it says, do not commit adultery, do not fornicate, and so forth. Yet Christians do not stand up against, brothels that are legalized and open and run free in their Christian societies. Why don't Christians condemn it and close those brothels, right? Why don't they petition for change and run it through a political system and campaign against it? But you'll often hear them say, to Caesar be Caesar, so Caesar can judge. So they ignore the Bible there, and they say, let Caesar judge, and Caesar puts brothels up.